Hello and welcome to the Press Room with WCN-TV, brought to you by the Wilson County News. We're your source for community and communication. I'm your host, Julia, the Marketing and Social Media Specialist here at the Wilson County News. Today we're talking in depth about topics we presented in the September 28th and October 5th editions of the Wilson County News, including why citizens must register to vote by October 11th in order to vote in the general elections coming November 8th. A talk with Wilson County's Fire Marshal, Edwin Baker, and we're sharing a few more fall festivals happening later this month in the Wilson County area. You can subscribe to print, digital, or both editions of the Wilson County News at wilsoncountynews.com/subscribe so you never miss an edition of your local newspaper. Feel free to follow us where you're watching today so you're always up to date on the Press Room and our other WCN-TV news. First up on today's show, we're talking with Olga Marrero. She's the Elections Administrator of Wilson County, and she's here to talk about what she does and why it's important to register to vote before October 11th. Welcome to the Press Room.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to appear in your show.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So let's talk about who you are, where you're from, and what you do as the Wilson County Elections Administrator.
Okay, my name is Olga Marrero, and I am the Elections Administrator. I'm originally from here, but we've just returned back. We've been here 20 years.
Wow.
My husband was in the military and he retired, so then we moved back home. I came back here and started working.
So you've been our administrator for 6 years now?
That is correct.
So
Very
what
busy.
exactly do you have to do as the Elections Administrator?
Well, basically pretty much maintained still our voter registration rolls. And we register people, we take care of the applications for your ballot by mail, and of course we run the elections, we train the poll workers, and as other duties assigned.
So the deadline to register to vote for the November 8th general elections is coming up really soon. It's October 11th. Why is it important for folks to register to vote and to also vote?
I think, well, first of all, you have to be registered to be able to vote.
Right.
I feel like they need to be able to express their opinion on how they feel on whichever ballot it is, whether it's governor, presidential, any election that they're eligible to vote for.
Right.
They can express how they feel, whether, like I said, depending on what the ballot is.
What do you have to do to register to vote?
Well, there's different ways, Julie. You can apply. We have our applications on our website.
Okay.
You could come to our office and pick up an application or fill it there. So, while you're there, you can call us and request for us to send you one. If you can't come to our office, and we'll send you one. So all you have to do is contact our office, and there's any way we can help. We'll gladly do it.
So what is it like for your office handling voter registration? What do you do once someone has turned in their application?
Okay, we have my staff. I have two people in my staff that are full-timers, and so basically we receive our applications, we process them. We also receive from our DPS, anybody that applies for DPS that says they want to be registered. The applications come through our system, which is from Secretary of State. Wow. So we processed that. So we're pretty busy on a daily basis because we do generate applications that are coming from, let's say, other counties that somebody's moved and they're coming to our county, or vice versa, that we have people here, we have to send data to them. So we're pretty busy as far as the registration part.
Wow.
And then we have to always make sure that our integrity in our make sure that our roles are current and updated, and so try to maintain that as much as possible.
That makes a lot of sense. So if I'm not mistaken, keeping your voter information updated is pretty much up to the voter's responsibility.
That is correct. So if you move, we would like to know, because then of course, number one, let's say you move to a different section of the town or the county. Well, you're still registered, and that's what you would have to vote on election if you don't change it.
Right.
So it does affect you in some way, that it's like if let's say you're having a local election or something, and but you live there now, but you're still registered in another city, or let's say Stockdale or something. Well, you can't vote locally because you gotta vote where you're right. So it's important to change it. There is a website, I believe it's Secretary of State, where you can actually change your information, or again, they can call our office and we can send them a form. The other way is to, let's say you go on election day in a polling location and you need to change it, they will also give you a confirmation paper for you to fill out, and then we'll change it after, but it'll be after the election.
Okay.
That it'll goes into effect.
That makes sense.
For that particular election, you'll have to vote where you're at.
Okay, but then if you're noticing that, oh, I should have probably updated my information, it's too late now, but I can get a form so that next year it's current.
Correct. You can always fix it. Like I said, there's ways of calling us, and then every 2 years we send out the new cards. So if you moved and let's say that card went back to your old address and it wasn't returned to us, well, we don't know, Julie, that you moved. It's just we just assume that because we didn't receive it back that you received it. So it's important to to update your voter registration card.
So you also mentioned that part of your job as elections administrator is to train the poll workers. Is there a current need for poll workers in Wilson County?
We do, but right now we actually have a very good list. But we keep track. And there again, thanks to you guys that you put a lot of information in your paper about our upcoming, or if we need poll workers. Right now we have a really good list, but we do call. Our list is submitted to Commissioner's Court in August. Okay. But between August and now, of course, people have something comes up or something, so they can't work.
Right.
So we go ahead and go back to our list and we start calling the people that we have. But we have had a really good turnout as far as people calling that want to work, which is great.
Where can folks look into becoming a poll worker, and why should they consider doing that, even if y'all are really well staffed right now?
I think that, well, first of all, they can contact us, our office. They can either call the sheriff persons also.
All right.
And as far as working, I think they'll get a little bit of knowledge of what elections is all about, the process of it.
Right.
Learn how it actually works.
How old do you have to be a poll worker?
It's 18, but we also there is a program for students.
Oh,
so
cool.
They have to do a paper from their school and the principal saying that it's okay for them to miss school. We have had, I want to say 2020, we did have some students that came in to help, and they really enjoyed it, which was great because it's part of their class, and they loved it. So they have come back now that they've gone to college and stuff, but we had one that came back. And so that is great because, like I said, they don't know much about elections, but working it, they were really surprised in how much work is involved with it. But they enjoyed it. They liked it. So.
Well, where can folks go to learn more about elections in Wilson County?
Our office again. I mean, when we purchased our new equipment, we had an open house for them to come and look. Right. Again, we still have our equipment, so if anybody wants any information or would like to see what kind of equipment we have, they're welcome to come. I mean, our doors are always open to voters and people that have moved. We have a lot of people that have moved here.
Right.
And so we welcome anyone.
Thank you for all that you do and for giving us your time today.
Well, thank you very much for inviting. Again, thanks to the Wilson County News for helping us put out information, and we appreciate that.
In the October 5th edition of the Wilson County News, we covered a large fire that happened at an illegal dump site just north of Stockdale on September 27th. Here with us today is Wilson County Fire Marshal Edwin Baker to talk about some burn ban do's and don'ts, what makes an illegal dump, and what his job as County Fire Marshal entails. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. So let's start with who you are and where you're from.
My name is Edwin Baker. I am the Wilson County Fire Marshal and Health and Public Safety Officer, Emergency Management Coordinator, and I am from Stockdale, born and raised there, went to school there, and have lived there with my family more or less my entire life.
So what do you do as our county's fire marshal?
The Fire Marshal's job is to assist and advise Commissioners Court on fire issues, whether it be the burn ban, whether it be droughts, whether it be large fires. And I advise Commissioners Court. I also do the state license inspections of fire inspections of facilities that are required to have their state license, like daycares, foster cares, nursing homes, things like that. And I can assist fire departments in origin and cause of fires, where it started and possibly how it started.
So what do you do as the Health and Public Safety Officer?
Well, I oversee the health department, the septic department, which they are kind of one of the same, but the health department, as far as the county is concerned, is we do restaurant inspections or food inspections and issue permits and permits to operate a food service facility in the county, not in the cities, but in the county.
Okay.
In Wilson County. The other added stuff is we do all the septic permitting and septic inspections. I am a licensed DR by the state of Texas. DR being not a doctor, but a designated representative, which means I'm appointed by the judge to oversee the septic permitting and inspection process in our county. I also work with the Wilson County Development Review Committee. We review all platted subdivisions and make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and the whole plat is in order before we send it to Commissioners Court for approval, and then it gets filed at the county clerk's office. We also oversee the variance request. In other words, if you want to split a piece of property into a smaller piece than 10.01 acres, you take a 10-acre place and you want to make it into 2/5, you have to come get a variance from the rules, from the platting rules, so you can do so. Okay. And I'm the chairman of that committee and have been on that committee since 1998.
In the past, have you been involved with any local fire departments? Yeah,
I was the fire chief in Stockdale for 20 years. I've been a volunteer member there officially since 1985. My very first fire I went to was in 1972 when I was a senior in high school. They needed help, and some of the seniors, they came and got us, and we went down and helped the fire department and assisted them over the years until I was able to join the fire department, because the night they met, I worked that night.
Wow.
So for years, I couldn't become an official member. I just helped them where I could. And in 85, it became possible for me to join the fire department. I've been a member ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you still a member?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I still assist the fire department when I can. Of course, I can't go into burning buildings anymore, but, there's younger guys that can do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, in the October 5th Wilson County News, we shared information about a recent fire at an illegal dump north of Stockdale. Mm-hmm. So, I wanted to ask you, what makes a dump legal versus illegal, and how could situations like the one in Stockdale be avoided in the future?
Well, avoiding them is real hard, because a lot of times we don't know about them until after they're already started, and sometimes extremely large. As in this case, it got real big before we were ever made aware that there was one. At the point of when we are made aware there is an illegal dump, we start contacting property owners and letting them know they can't do that. So a legal dump would be, or legal dumping would be, you're allowed to bury 2,000 pounds of household trash on your property.
Wow.
On your property that's generated from your property every year. You could also burn it in a barrel. That's one of the exemptions from the burn ban. It's not exempt from burn regulations as far as the outdoor burning rules of the state of Texas, but it is exempt from the burn ban. You can burn household trash in a barrel with a screen during daylight hours, as long as there's somebody attending it, and you've taken the proper precautions of clearing any flammable vegetation in the area, as well as being there with a means of extinguishing a small fire if it did start.
Okay.
That you can do. Dumping, there's two types of two things that make it illegal. One is receiving dump goods from another property from somebody else. Whether you're taking money or not, it's irrelevant. You cannot receive trash products from somebody else's property.
Okay.
Unless you are a collection facility, which we have one. The county has a collection facility. It's often called the dump because for years it was.
Okay.
And then the state came in and said, okay, we're going to seal it off. Y'all need to do it as a collection station and have everything hauled from here to wherever they take it. And that's a legal place. It's illegal to receive dump materials, but it's also illegal to dump the materials. So it could be two violations. If I came on your property, even though you let me come on your property to dump something, you're in violation as well as I'm in violation.
Okay.
So it's two violations at one time.
Wilson County has reinstated its burn ban, as we covered in the September 28th Wilson County News. And we just talked about, how it's okay to burn in a barrel with a screen during burn bans. So what is the point of a burn ban, and what are some general do's and don'ts?
The point of a burn ban is during drought conditions, and there is a drought index. Well, I use it. I don't know how many fire marshals use it, but it's well known throughout the state of Texas. It's put out by the Texas Forest Service, and it's called the Keach-Brenham Drought Index, and KBDI is what we refer to.
Okay.
And it has drought mark numbers such as 575. You can't ban certain fireworks unless the drought index is up to or is going to be at 575 whenever they start selling fireworks.
Okay.
That's how we can ban certain fireworks. We only ban a few of the fireworks that's all a county can do. Counties aren't allowed to ban all fireworks unless an emergency declaration has been declared as far as drought and extreme or exceptional drought conditions and dry conditions exist or could exist. You can't just say, yeah, it may be dry then. It's got to be something that is pretty much tell that if we don't get rain, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
And we got into that this summer. The burn ban is 90 days. Okay. January 24th, when it's put on, is renewed in April and is renewed again in July. Well, when we got into September, we had the rains in August and early September, and it was enough to get us below those drought index numbers to where we felt it was safe to burn. Now, when we talk about safe to burn, we're not talking about you can't have fires. There's going to be fires, but they're manageable or more manageable whenever we're not in those extreme dry conditions.
Okay.
And it was like I told Commissioner's Court whenever I asked them to release the burn ban, we may be in it in 2 weeks again, but for now we need to let people burn while they can. And you're talking about burning leaves or brush in these subdivisions. It can be dangerous if drought conditions are extreme.
Yeah.
Same thing with your agricultural burns. We do allow agricultural burns during a burn ban, but they have to be permitted. A permit is only good for 1 day and 1 day only, the date of the permit. We do not do extended, like I can't tell you can burn all week long.
Okay.
I can tell you can burn Tuesday or Wednesday. Actually, we're allowing burning today because of the weather conditions and the drought conditions are enough to where we can permit agricultural burns. And we're only having 1 or 2 a day call in to get permits. That can receive them. We have a lot of people calling that don't receive permits because they don't meet the criteria. They're in a subdivision, which that's where, fires are about, we don't want it to damage anything, but we definitely don't want a wildland fire to destroy homes or property, like, hay, for instance, it happens, but
Right.
we don't want a hay barn burning down. We don't want somebody's house burning down. We don't want their garage burning down or their carport burning down. So that's what it helps the public protect the public from themselves and each other.
So let's get into some of the do's and don'ts during a burn ban. Yeah, where do you want to start with that?
Well, do in the burn ban, call and ask if we're allowing burning for starters. If we are, we'll tell you, yes, you can burn if we're in a burn ban. If we're not in a burn ban, you don't have to call in. You can burn, you're on your own. Any citizen, anytime they light up anything on fire, they're responsible for that and where it goes and what happens afterwards. If it's out in the rural areas of the county, ranches or farms, it may burn up fence posts, but it also could burn up a hay baler or a hay farm or a hay barn or hay. Hay's pretty pricey right now, and you lose 50 bales. That's a pretty good chunk of money.
Absolutely.
for that farmer or rancher. We do have it's called the Outdoor Burn Regulations of the state of Texas. Those are 24/7, 365 days a week, whether you're in a burn ban or not.
Okay.
If you're not in a burn ban, you go by those. You will be meeting the regulations, which pretty much says you can burn during daylight hours when winds are not exceeding 23 miles an hour, which is a little bit steep for our area, but that is the rule. And you got to have it out by dark. That's every day of the week, no matter burn ban or not.
Okay.
Large brush piles are hard to get them to burn in one day, and during daylight hours, and sometimes they burn into the night. And we do not require somebody burning large brush piles in an agricultural clearing operation where they're burning. We do ask them to stay there and monitor it, though.
Okay.
That's what we ask. That's a do. If you don't feel safe lighting a fire, don't do it. Even if we give a permit, you don't have to burn that day. If something comes up and maybe you're delayed in getting it started and the winds have picked up more than you feel comfortable with, call in tomorrow for a burn permit. You don't have to burn.
Okay. Now, what would you say are some absolute don'ts during a burn ban?
Don't burn.
Don't burn.
If you want to be 100% safe, don't burn.
Okay.
There's just nothing safer than not burning. I do understand why people need to burn. I get it. Leaves, debris, limbs fall. We had a few little storms with a little rain, which helped out, but it knocked limbs out of trees, and people needed to get rid of them. There are other methods to get rid of them besides that, but for the most part, burning is the most common.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and subdivisions are where it's the most dangerous. So we got to be careful with allowing to burn in subdivisions. The burn ban is not meant to prevent you from doing your family things or the things you do. The two major things that we do not deal with or regulate is barbecuing. Now, I would advise them not to have open fires on the ground.
Yeah.
If you can have a way of starting your pit with wood in a firebox or something, in a way to maintain it so it doesn't get away from you. That's the smart way to do it. And then campfires during wintertime, we don't regulate campfires. We don't ban campfires. You have to be able to stay warm if you are out at the place where you need it. But doing it safely is what we suggest. Make sure it's up off the ground or it's bare ground around it and it's done properly. And one of the problems, we had quite a bit of loss this past winter. There was a wildland fire that, the conditions were just right. The wind was blowing the right direction. The air was dry enough to where a family had a little barbecue and a little party the night before, and they had a little burn ring where they had, a campfire going. Well, they didn't extinguish it 100%, and the next morning the sun came out, it dried up everything around it, the wind blew a little bit, and it caught the grass on fire and took off and burned up somebody else's property.
Oh no.
And it was money property. I'm talking property of value, not just a little grass and a few fence posts. I'm talking about something of value. And it was several RVs, if I remember right.
Wow.
And so, that was not a good thing. And it goes, that then a person may not be criminally charged, but they could be held civilly liable for the damage they caused. In other words, have to pay for it.
Right. What are ways that the community can support your efforts as fire marshal and the efforts of their local fire departments and ESDs?
Be safe as possible. As far as burning is concerned, make sure that you're doing it safely. You don't do like that particular one did, where they let the fire get away from them because it was unattended and they thought everything was fine. You see all the time about forest fires being started by campfires that weren't completely extinguished, because there's only two things with a fire: it's either extinguished or it's not.
Okay.
And so you need to make sure that you're burning as safely as possible, and taking consideration where your smoke goes. One of the problems with these dumps burning, the smoke is one of the primary problems, because there are people with asthma, and those type of fires tend to trigger asthma. And so the burn regulations say if you're within 300 feet of what is considered a sensitive receptor, that means somebody with breathing problems, you have to have written permission from them to burn on your property.
Wow.
And that falls more true in the subdivisions than anywhere, because it's easy to be within 300 feet of.
Right.
You get out in the county where it's rural and it's not in a subdivision, it's not, you're not going to be in violation of that. But if you're in a subdivision, pay attention to the wind and where your smoke's going. During the day, one of the reasons for burning during daylight hours is when the sun's out, and heating air is rising. When you have a fire, the smoke will rise. It'll rise up to wherever the wind is, and then it'll lay out and go with the wind. At night and in the morning, it inverts, and what happens is it sinks.
Okay.
Because it's higher humidity and cooler, right? So the air sinks, so the smoke will sink.
Okay.
So if you're burning at night, you're going to have smoke in your neighborhood.
Ooh, that's
And yeah, well, if it's a nice, pretty cool morning, they may have their windows open in their house. Now you're smoking them out.
Oof.
So be cognizant of that, and be courteous to your neighbors.
Absolutely, that's very good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for your time today and everything that you've shared.
Not a problem.
In last week's episode of The Press Room, we talked with representatives from the Floresville Peanut Festival Association about their festival, which happens throughout this week. And we let you know about a few other area fall festivals that happened last week and through this week. Now let's dive into more area fall festivals happening throughout the rest of October. Rock United Methodist Church will hold its Fall Festival and Car Show on Saturday, October 15th at the church in St. Hedwig. The event includes lunch, bingo, a pumpkin patch, and a free car show. St. Anthony Catholic Church will host its Day in Old St. Anthony Fall Festival on Sunday, October 16th from 11 to 5 on their parish grounds in Elmendorf. The event will include their famous barbecue chicken and sausage plates, bingo, a silent auction and live auction, a baked goods sale, food and drink booths, a plant sale and country store, kids activities, and more. Camp House Concerts and Texas Voices will present their Fall Music Festival on October 22nd from 4 to 11:30 p.m. at Camp House Concerts in Nixon. Tickets are $50 and benefit the Nixon Lions Club and can be purchased from any member of the Nixon Lions Club. You can also purchase them online at camphouseconcerts.com. The Pecan Festival and Heritage Days will be held October 28th through 30th in Seguin with live music, the Pecan Museum tours, heritage activities, a Get Crackin' contest, a beer and wine garden, vendors, a pumpkin patch, the Seguin Film and Arts Festival, and more. That's all for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in to the Press Room with WCN TV, brought to you by the Wilson County News. For more information about anything we mentioned in today's show, see the October 5th edition or the September 28th edition of the Wilson County News, or visit wilsoncountynews.com. You can also find articles corresponding to each topic discussed today in the video's description. Remember to follow us where you're watching so you never miss an episode, and consider subscribing to receive print, digital, or both editions of the Wilson County News each week. You can find more news or subscribe at wilsoncountynews.com or download our app, Go Wilson, to receive updates from our newsroom at your fingertips. The app is available for Apple and Android devices at gowilsonapp.com. We hope you'll tune in next week for another episode of The Press Room. We'll see you then!